Call me Big Ben the way I'm clocking your tea. Think about it. There's levels to this. I said that to a coworker earlier this week. I said that line. I said, call me Big Ben the way I'm clocking your tea. And he just looked at me. And I was like, get it? He was like, no, I got it. That's not the problem. I'm looking at the problem. I was like, all right, don't be like that. All right, let's have some fun. Within these beige walls, let's have a good time. But then I did also look at a coworker a weird way this week because I was asked by a coworker. He said, Gauruv, my daughter the other day, we were watching the singing competition on TV. It was probably American Idol, Masked Singer, America's Got Talent, something of the sort. And he said, one of the singers sang the song, and then she turned, my young daughter turned, looked at me and said, Dad, she ate. What does that mean, Garv? I'm like, you didn't think to ask the internet? Or maybe, I don't know, your daughter? Never mind, I'll tell you. And I tried to explain that, oh yeah, when a kid says, or I guess anyone of any age, but when someone says, oh, someone ate, that kind of means like, oh, they killed it. That's the equivalent of that. He was like, okay, but why? I'm like, oh, see, now we got roles reversed. Usually when a kid asks questions, they're always, the why machines. They're like, why is the sky blue? And you're like, I don't know, because like it reflects off of, I don't know. I don't actually know. But if I was confident and I was like, oh, because it reflects off the water, then they wouldn't be satisfied. They would still keep inundating you with the same repetitive question. They would be Gatling gun you with a bunch of whys. And they'd be like, why? And I'm like, well, that's how light works. They'd be like, why? I'm like, well, that's, okay, now we're getting kind of deep in this. I don't know. I'm going to have to read some books and get back to you. That's what it feels like when adults ask about slang. You explain it to them, you tell them the answer, and they're still like, but why? And you're like, well, that's the science behind it. It makes sense. Yeah, but what is it like the number 8? Or is it like eating? Like that kind of 8. I'm like, oh, well, funny you bring that up, actually. One of my favorite things I see on social media is, there'll be a girl that posts a photo, and then all her friends are hyping up in the comments. And one of my favorite flavors is when someone says like 7 plus 1 or 4 plus 2 or 4 plus 4. Well, or what is it now? Does this guy know basic addition? But no, like 2 plus 6. And they're like, what's 2 times 4? That's what I was thinking. My bad. It was multiplication. I said addition. We're losing intellect out here, folks. It's subtraction by addition, I guess you could call it. But that's one of my favorite things to see on like a girl's comment section is just a bunch of math. How does that add up, Garv? Well, it just does. Why? Can you shut up? But yeah, I had to explain slang to some of my coworkers, and then I started getting a little too deep. I did the wrong thing, when you give them a little bit and you're like, oh, they can handle that, they can handle a little more. I told them, I was like, oh yeah, if your daughter says that, next time you can say, and yes, and she left no crumbs. He's like, why would I say that? I'm like, well, I don't know, man. Just don't have a relationship with your daughter then. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. What do you want me to say? Okay? Don't just. And then I was like, and if you want to kind of like intensify it, you can even say someone ate down. And I was like, and don't ask me to explain that because I don't actually know what that means. But I just feel like it's a more intense version of eating. Or, when someone ate, if you say they ate down, that's like using the government phrase. You can just say someone ate, but if you say they ate down, well, that's like the whole thing, right? It's like if someone's name is Tony and you call him Anthony, that's like saying 8 down. Anyhow, I explained that, and then I went too far. I started saying other stuff. And I was like, oh, hey, do you guys know what clocking something means? They're like, no. And I was like, oh, okay. So then you wouldn't know what like clocking someone's tea means? So you're like, how could we? You're not speaking English. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, here, let me try to put it in the the what is it? What do you call it? Put it in the context of our job. Let's say someone submits a support ticket, right? And they need help with it. Well, they can pick one of 4 priorities or severities, which is critical, high, medium, or low. And I was like, let's say someone submits a critical ticket and it's low. Well, you can clock their T and be like, I know that's not critical. It's really low. And they're like, why does that make sense? I was like, I don't know, man. Why does anything make sense? Why are we doing this, huh? Why did I just use a ticketing system as an analogy, huh? If you really think about it, what are any of us doing? But that didn't go over well. I couldn't explain with what that was. And then someone else was listening and they were like, oh, my kid does this sometimes. Like I'm a doctor all of a sudden. You ever meet someone in public and then, they're giving like medical advice and they're like, I have chapped lips. What do you suggest for that? It's like, no, I'm not working right now. Okay. You don't get to ask me this. You got to set up an appointment. But I'm a charitable fellow. So I was like, what was your son doing? What did he do? Well, he sometimes points at his chin or he goes like this and then goes like that. I was like, oh, okay. Well, he knows who the Rizzler is. I was like, do you know who the Rizzler is? They were like, no. I'm like, okay. Well, he's like doing something. How do I explain this? I don't know. Like he's mewing, I guess you could call it. Another word is like mogging. It's a little different, but it can be used synonymously, I feel like. And people do that, sometimes when they're looks maxing. And even after I said those three things, I was like, yeah, what am I doing? I actually get where their confusion comes from, because what the fuck could any of that mean? Someone even asked, they're like, are you making these words up? And I was like, well, no, not me personally, but that's where words come from, right? Aren't they just made up? Everything's made up. Like all these sounds and stuff, the reason you understand what I'm saying is because, yeah, we learned English. This is all just noise. If you didn't know English, you would just listen to this and be like, this guy makes no sense. Well, wait a minute, Garv, I do understand English, and I still have that same reaction. Okay, well, you have a different issue. Really, Garv? Are you sure you're not the one with the issues? No, you're the one with the issue. I've only been talking to a camera for 30 minutes every week for the past 61 weeks for the same 30 people. I'm the normal one. Which, by the way, is there are about 30 people that watch this on a regular basis. So then why are we only getting 13 to 16 likes on an episode? I'm going to need you to hit the like button. We're going to do it right up front here. I'm going to need you to hit that like button. Just a reminder, Comments also very much appreciated. We only got, what? Let's address it right here. I haven't done this in a while. 2 comments, 2 individual contributors on the last episode. I had more people DM me about last episode, talking to me about it. I got 3 people that DM me or texted me and like had comments about the episode. I'm like, put those in the fucking, put the comments in the bag, bro. I need that shit. You think I can keep doing this? If it's 30 people, I would love to, but I'm gonna lose my mind. I already have. So yeah, I also lost my mind trying to explain what it means to eat in like a slay sense. You know what I'm saying? Someone also took much pride in being like, oh, do you guys know what a vibe check means? My kid always says, let's do a vibe check. It means like checking in on them. I'm like, well, that's not, I mean, yes, technically, that's the denotation of the phrase, but that's not really like the connotation. Checking in, that's not what it, whatever. I have to say, that's not even my least favorite conversation you can have at work. I was reminded of one of my least favorite conversations you can have at work. Or it's really something that happens in a conversation that I really don't like. It didn't even really happen, but there was something that someone said that reminded me that there's this other thing I really don't like. And let me try to explain it to you. Let's say I'm talking to 2 other people, right? It's a group of 3 of us. One person's telling a story. They're telling a story about this long, arduous hike they went on. And then the other person, right? If there's a storyteller, me and the other person in the middle of the story will go, oh, Garv's over there looking like, hope that's not me. Hope I don't have to go on a hike. Garv's over there looking, I don't know if I would have been able to do that. Garv's over there looking like, I'm glad I stayed in on my Saturday. Garv's over there looking like, outside? No thanks. I think I'll take the AC inside. I hate that shit. I haven't been a victim of it in the recent past, but I remember that that's something that people used to do, and I was like, oh yes, with the return of the office, that's going to be a dime a dozen. That's going to be everywhere. A dime a dozen means not rare, right? I remember one time I used it here, and I used it to mean the other thing. I mean that's going to be everywhere. It's going to be ubiquitous, right? This phrase. People are going to be doing that. They're going to be doing the classic setup where someone tells a story and then some uninteresting person wants to loop you into it by being like, oh, he's thinking, I don't know if I want to do meal prep for a whole week. Garv's over there looking like, I'm sure glad I don't have kids. I'm like, hey, do you hate your family? Don't bring me into that, all right? Just because you hate your kids doesn't mean you got to make me seem like a miserable loner. I can be that by myself. Don't bring me into your shit, okay? But this is something people do, and I fucking don't like it. If you've experienced it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because I remember I explained it to my mom, and she was like, "Oh, Garv, I know what you're saying. That shit sucks." I was like, "Doesn't it?" You're probably over there thinking like, "Oh, I'm glad I'm not in Garv's situation," and then she hung up on me. Rightfully so, as she should have. But in real life, you can't do that. You can't hang up on someone in a conversation. You just have to sit there and take it. What I don't like about that situation, right, when someone's like, Garv's over there looking like, I hope it's not me. It puts you in a bad, what are you supposed to do? If you challenge it, you're an asshole. But then you take it, and they always set you up in a losing situation. So what do you do? It's a lose-lose. So you just gotta do that thing where you go, oh, yeah. But then they're relentless with it. They just keep returning back because they gotta laugh. So they're like, oh, that worked. I'm gonna keep doing it. Garv's over there looking like, I sure hope I don't have to eat dog food. I'm like, don't. That doesn't even apply. That person is talking about feeding their dog food. You don't have to loop me into that, okay? That sucked. Do you do this with other people? And you wonder why your kids hate you? I don't. I got it figured out. But yeah, do you know that? Have you experienced that? I hope not. But if you have, at least we can bond in that trauma, can't we? But this is what people do. They don't have anything to add, so they're like, I'm gonna make this about someone else. I also don't like that. You ever do that? You ever get into you ever do something one time and then it becomes your thing? Like in the past, I mean it still is true, but this isn't a great example, but it's adjacent to what I'm talking about. I'm not a big eater. I don't eat a lot of food. And some people that are uninteresting love to use that as like a reoccurring bit. Like every time we go out, they're gonna be like, "Oh wow, you got a lot of food. Are you sure you can eat that?" I'm like, "Do you think that's interesting? Do you think this makes our relationship better when you say shit like that?" I don't like it. It gives you an opportunity to get a pity laugh from me, but we don't have to do that. I don't want to do that, man. Oh wow, you finished your fries. That's a first. You know what also is a first? Us hanging out and last, okay? And there's a reason for that. Because this isn't gonna work out, okay? I took a risk by doing this with you, and you've already shown that you can't handle yourself. You can't handle the big leagues, bud. Go back to the G League. Triple A. You can't handle the majors. Squirt. But I don't like this shit. When people like make the joke at your expense. I've also never, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna start complaining a lot. I've never liked when people like are self-deprecating in a group way. Like you ever be with someone and then someone's explaining some instructions or something. Let's say you go to an escape room, right? You go to escape with a group of friends, and they explain the rules, and they're like, "Did you get that?" And then your friend says, "We're like the two biggest idiots, but like that was simple enough to understand." I'm like, "Don't, dude. I don't want to be an idiot with you. Okay? I can call myself an idiot, but don't self-deprecate on my behalf. I can call myself an idiot all I want. You don't get to do that. Okay? That's an insult at that point. You can't self-deprecate in a group set. There's no Groupon for that shit. Okay? You can't be like, "Oh, here you go. This is for me and him." It's like, no. Use that on yourself. Okay? If I want to use my coupon and self-deprecate, I'll use mine. But don't fucking BOGO me with your misery. Okay? I'll call myself an idiot all I want. I'm open with that, right? I'm not shy to call myself an idiot. But then some people, right, they overstep. They're like, "Oh, well, he's saying it all the time about himself, so I can say it too." I'm like, "No, you can't. You don't have clearance. You got to get the clearance from me, okay?" I've never liked that. I've never challenged anyone on it, but I've never liked that. And we're like the dumbest people we know. Explain it to us again. No, don't do that. I remember actually I had this situation. I went to VidCon years ago. And I remember there were three of us that went back to the house, the Airbnb we had rented, a little early to set up for a party. Everyone else was still at VidCon, but we decided to go back. But before we went back to the house, we were like, well, we better get something to eat. That we were ready for the party, right? Don't know how many snacks there will be there, so let's get a real meal in us. And so we were the three of us sitting in the car, and the driver was like, well, what do you guys want? And I was like, no, yeah, I'm good with whatever. Is there something in mind you guys want? And then the guy in the passenger seat, and I was in the back seat. Passenger seat was like, "Oh, well, this is like the worst situation. We're like the most indecisive people in the world. So you're like asking the wrong people." I'm like, "No, I'm decisive. I'm just trying to be fucking accommodating. Okay? If I was alone, I would be halfway to where I want to go. But because there's two other people, I want to be accommodating. I'm gonna be like, yeah, do you guys have any ideas? If you throw out some ideas, I'll agree with one of them. Or if you do want me to pick, I'll throw out some ideas. And if you jive with them, then let's head on over there. But don't call me indecisive. Don't do that shit. You're asking like the two guys that can't make a decision. We don't even know which way is left or right. When it's time to make the call, I can make the call. I'm just trying to be nice. Don't. I don't know. This is the latest I've ever recorded one of these podcast episodes. Just to give you a little behind the scenes here. Usually I post these things at 8 p.m. on Monday. Well, guess what? Right now it's 7:50 p.m. on Monday. In a normal situation, I would be posting this in 10 minutes. But here I am, only, what is it? I forgot when I started this. Shit. I don't even remember when I started recording. God damn it. Now I gotta think of that. Well, the recording up there says 16 minutes, but I know I usually dilly-dally for the first minute or two. But what was it? I think it was like 8:06 I said I was going to be done? No, 8:02. Fuck, I don't even know. Whenever that hits 31 minutes, I'll probably be done. But yeah, I'm in a weird way. I don't know. So I'm coming out hot with this shit. I don't know why. I put off putting... No, I know why. I was tired. I was busy. And then I put off doing this podcast episode to when I would feel good. But that's the problem with creating stuff. You can't rely on motivation. You have to rely on like discipline, right? That's why it's good to have routine. You don't do things when you feel like it. You do things when you do them. And then you'll do them. And I fucked myself because I don't have like a day or a time I record these things. So I kept procrastinating, kept pushing. Now here we are. And I'm hot. I'm burning. And this sucks like shit from an ass. I realized I wrote this down. I was like, that makes things instantly funnier. Like, that's something you can incorporate into your everyday life. When you say something, what is it? It's like shitty, or what is it? Yeah, this smells like shit, or like I don't know, this sucks like shit. Just add from an ass. I found if you add from a whatever it's from, it's funny. Or it's like it smells like piss from a, you know. Or if someone's like, "Oh my God, you're drenched," you walk in with a raincoat, you can be like, "Yeah, I got hit by rain from the sky." I don't know why that's funny to me. If you just say like where something's from, is that a crack in your windshield? Yeah, there was a pine cone from a tree. If you just say pine cone, I feel like that's not funny. God, I don't feel like any of this is funny. That's a good point. Thank you. I needed that. Just a little dose of reality. How nice. 8:06. I just remembered that's when I have to stop recording. I was told by my dad, we were talking about something earlier this week, and he was like, it's funny. He's like, I don't think I've ever realized this, but I feel like in one moment you can be a very, very cynical person, but then in the next moment you can be very optimistic. And I was like, but you have to have one without the other. I feel like the mistake we make, right, is we look at optimists as people that are infallible and always positive no matter what, right? I don't think that's what an optimist is. I think that's just an ignorant idiot. Someone that's always like, no, it'll be good. It'll be, yeah, it can't be bad because that wouldn't be good. And it's going to be good. I feel like a true optimist is like a cynical person, but despite their cynicism, right, their understanding of how bad something can be, they actively choose to believe that, no, it'll go well. I think that is the definition of an optimist. I don't think an optimist is, this dumb idiot running around being like, no, everything's sunshine and rainbows. I think an optimist is, I've considered all the bad that can happen, and I still believe that good can happen. I think that's a true optimist, right? I feel like we have these weird definitions of words, and they've gotten mucked up over the years, right? Like the old introvert extrovert conversation. This reminds me a lot of that. We use introvert synonymously with the word shy, and extrovert as like outgoing. I feel like we do the same thing with optimism. We say like, oh, someone that's generally positive and bright is optimistic. And if someone's a little more dark and, reserved, we're like, no, well, that's a cynical person. They've obviously closed themselves off. They've cloistered away in the darkness of the world. They're not dancing out in the open fields, right? But I feel like that's wrong. Because, yes, I would say, if you were to ask me, I was filling out some kind of census, I would say I'm an optimistic person. But the thing is, I have the most cynical takes. But that's what I think makes me such an optimist, is that despite how cynical my thoughts are, I choose to believe that it will always work out. I feel like that's the true definition of optimism. But am I wrong? Is there something I'm obviously missing? Because my dad, once I explained it, was like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. But there could be something I'm missing, right? I'm choosing to believe I got it dead on, but I believe I could have made a mistake. Look at that. That was a little micro dose, a little microcosm of what I just explained, isn't it? how how interesting is that? Optimism is knowing how bad it is, but still saying, yeah, it'll go well. And I feel like I see this. Like even posting videos online, this hasn't been like successful to a point where it should be like worth it. I've talked about this. I've been making videos for what, 8 years now? There hasn't been enough success proportionate to the amount of effort I put in to like keep wanting to do this. But I know, I truly believe that this will pay off in the end. And so I keep doing it. A lot of people, I think that's a struggle they get into, right? They might be post videos or whatever for a few months, few days I've even seen. And they're like, oh, well, this isn't worth it. I'm done. But they got into it for the wrong reasons, probably. There's a myriad of reasons, but I'm sure it's different for every individual. But I have like such a firm belief that this will be good. Like this will pay off one day, proportionate to the amount of effort I put in. But if you look at the amount of effort I put in, you could be like, oh, well, what the fuck is he doing? How could he not feel discouraged? Because, yeah, you could look at social media and be like, no, it's too saturated. I don't have a unique enough voice. There's no reason to put myself out there. It'll just get lost. All this effort I put in will be for nothing. But I know that that's a very real possibility. It's like I've talked about with dating, where it's like, yeah, it'll either work out or it won't. I'm okay with those being the two possibilities. And that's the same mindset I approach with social media with, which is like it'll work out or it won't. But if I just keep going, at least I'll still have that chance for it to work out. If I stop, well, then I've decided my fate. That's a trite old idea, right? Miss 100% of the shots you don't take is essentially that, said in different words. You got to keep shooting, or else you'll never hit your target. You put that arrows and quiver away, well, then you got no shot, right? You got to keep cocking that bow back and letting it fly. And so that, I think, is true optimism, right? You could be cynical and be like, there's no point to this social media shit. No one gives a fuck. Well, yeah, no one gives a fuck. But some people do. I actively say no one gives a fuck about this. But then I do it because I know that people do. That's not exactly the same idea, but it's right there. And also, things come out of this that aren't necessarily tangible. I think sometimes people go into the social media thing and they're like, well, how do you earn the money? I'm like, that's a natural first question. Yeah, that makes sense. With YouTube, it's in the last 365 days, you have to have 4,000 watch hours, and that's a running count, right? So every day this year that passes, I'll get erased, the watch time from last year. And then overall, you just got to have 1,000 subs, and then boom, you get the chance to add ads to your videos. And they're like, well, that takes too long. And I'm like, no, I know. But it's not really always about the money. Sure, that's like the end goal. But then there's other things you get, right? The intangibles from doing this. Like that job I got at Davis. I worked on the social media team for like a year or two or a year and a half or whatever it was. And that gave me the chance to like interview the chancellor, Gary May, a couple times. And I wouldn't have gotten that job if I wasn't putting myself on the internet, right? Overall, from YouTube, I made like a few $100s. But like it's opened so many doors for me. I've been able to get myself in places that I shouldn't have been able to get to. Even putting if we erase the YouTube part of it, even just posting on social media reminds people that you exist. Last week I went and got dinner with a friend. I posted on Instagram just a picture of our food. Someone I went to high school with, she DM'd me and she was like, Gauruv, so good to see you just doing stuff. Do you want to get lunch soon? And I was like, oh yeah, I would love to. That's someone I haven't seen in 8 years. I also thought about that I was talking to a friend the other day too, and I was like, isn't that interesting? If I talk to anyone from high school today, it will have been 8 years since I last talked to them. And a lot of the people I knew in high school, I met in middle school. And so I only knew those people from 6th grade to 12th grade. That's 7 years. 3 years in middle school, 4 years in high school. Which means more time has passed since I last saw them than the time I knew them for. Does that make sense what I just said? I knew those people for 7 years. The last time I've seen a lot of them was 8 years ago. Isn't that so weird? I don't find that to be wildly interesting, but I find it fascinating, I guess you could say. But, because I posted that picture of food, I'm going to get lunch with this person in 2 weeks. I didn't get paid for posting on my Instagram story, right? I posted a picture of fries and a mojito, right? That's not doing anyone favors, right? But it gave this person the opportunity, right? I put myself out there with the posts, and then they were like, oh, Gauruv likes food. We should get food. And so they hit me up. And it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to seeing this person again. But they probably would have never reached out if I didn't post that picture of my steak fries. And so that's kind of the same thing as social media. This isn't paying you dollar amounts, but it's keeping you connected. It's putting yourself out there. It's reminding people that you exist and you're participating in the world. That's what it's about, right? I don't look at the, sometimes on my main channel, right? I don't look at the 38 cents I made that day and think, yeah, that's why I'm going to keep going. I look at it because as the reason I'm going to keep going is because I like making these things and I like being a part of like a community, right? So that's why I do it. But some people, I feel like they look at the money and they're like, that's fucking not worth it. And I'm like, but that's not all it's about. I also feel like friends, right? You can be cynical about friends, right? Running late, all that stuff. I have this friend, he's notoriously late. It's funny, I used to be the late one. We've switched roles. He's now the late one. I'm always on time. But still, right? We make the jokes, Garv's the late one. Because I used to be. That's what I talked about, When we go back to the office, right? You'll bring like PB&J for lunch one day, and then someone will always be like, oh, PB&J again? Let me guess, right? You got PB&J? Yeah, I do. What the fuck? Is that funny to you? Shut the fuck up. Like, people, but that's the thing. A lot of people that don't bother to get close to you, they cling on to these stupid, superficial bullshit things. And they use that to be like, we're close. And you're like, really? How close are we? Well, what have you done besides saying, oh, PB&J again? Every day for 7 years. Every day at lunch. That's not a relationship. That's an annoyance, okay? That's a pest. When I leave this job, you're not going to text me every day at lunch and be like, let me guess, PB&J again? Because we're not friends. We're circumstantial acquaintances, okay? But friends, right? I have this friend, he's now late all the time. I pretty much can always count on him being an hour late. And some people could look at that and be like, oh, he doesn't care about you. That's a blatant disrespect or whatever. And yeah, it might be. But I choose to look at that and be like, oh no, he's like busy. He's running late. Whatever. It's dumb, but it's like optimistic, right? There's no point to be cynical with that. We're still going to hang out, what? If he shows up an hour late, we'll hang out 7 hours instead of 8. It's not a big deal. I just like that I get to see him, So I don't know. This episode went exactly how I thought it would go, but also I didn't know how it was going to go. So I don't know. I mean, I wasn't going to address it because I feel like this is one of those things. I've heard a lot of comedians say this and a lot of people in entertainment, but comedians specifically, because they go out there and they give like a one-man show. And they always say, never tell the audience that you're bombing. Let the audience believe that they're getting the best show of your life. Never go out there or, come backstage and then go on a podcast and be like, oh yeah, in, Birmingham or whatever, I fucking bombed. That was like a piece of shit show because someone that attended that show may be listening and be like, oh, I got a bad product? Oh, well shit. I mean, I had a good time, but now that I know I was shortchanged like that, now, fuck, I feel kind of bad. So that's why I feel like I apply the same like mindset to this. I never want to tell you when like I'm frustrated or something like that. But the stakes aren't that high, right? The stakes are my fries. Because I got the steak fries, right? But I don't know. I'm like fucking, I don't know. I'm like upset and tired and pissed off. I don't know about what. So that's why this ended up like this. So, should I have acknowledged that? Should have I have brought that up? Who knows? I don't give a fuck. I did. I hope that you don't feel shortchanged based on how this episode went. But hopefully I can make it up to you by giving you a song recommendation. Now, I don't know how to pronounce the name of the song, but I've enjoyed quite a few songs from a Brazilian singer named Mariana Froze, is how I believe you spell her name. And I'll put up these two songs by her. I really like those two. I've been trying to listen to more of her stuff and become more familiar, but those two are kind of the standouts for me right now. And I know this wasn't a standout episode, but I'm glad that you always stick around and listen to it, all 30 of you. So let's make sure we see 30 likes on that like button. We're not going to hit 30, but can you at least, make an effort? So yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Who's to say I really made an effort on this? But I am always thankful that you show up when I show up. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you next week. Okay.